Alright, this is John Colo with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, coming at you from my backyard garden. Beautiful June day, later in the afternoon. I was out gardening earlier, planted a whole bunch of new peppers out for the summer season. But this episode, what we're going to do is actually we're going to share with you guys when to harvest your garlic, right? Right here we have behind me is a whole bed of garlic, and this was not the primary crop that actually I grew in this bed. The garlic was kind of like an afterthought, or what I like to do in many cases is intercropping. I like to plant, multiple different items in the same raised bed so I could actually have, produce twice as much food at the same time. So earlier in the year, this bed was actually planted out with standard spinach transplants, probably around like end of October, beginning of November. And when I planted those guys, at the same time, I planted some garlic cloves, some hardneck garlic, actually some organic hardneck garlic. I actually got up when I was on a trip to Utah last year. And so I planted those in at the same time. I got many harvests of spinach during the season. Finally, the spinach went to flower and seed. It got cut out and removed, so it's actually all gone now. But I did leave the garlic in place because the garlic was not yet ready to be harvested. That was probably maybe like a month or so ago. Now the garlic is nice and large and it's just about ready to be harvested. I could let it go a little bit longer, but I thought I'd make a video for you guys and share with you guys when to harvest your garlic and why I'm harvesting it now. So yeah, so this was planted end of October, beginning November. It's now beginning of June and we're ready to harvest. So it's basically the garlic from the clove to the full bulb that we'll be pulling out in a second. It has been a total of 7 months. So here's the best way to know when to harvest your garlic, all right? So you want to look actually at the leaves on the plant. So these are like the little long blades, if this just fell off. And we have green blades and we have some brown blades. And each one of these blades actually correspond with, on that bulb that you're familiar with, this paper covering, right? As you can see, I'm peeling it off. So as the leaves turn brown on the bottom leaves, that's part of this paper covering. And if your leaves turn brown, that means the covering underneath the ground is actually kind of getting dissolved and kind of composting and breaking down. And if you let too many of your leaves on the garlic go brown, then basically all the paper covering, or the literally natural wrapping of your garlic cloves, will be disintegrated. Your cloves will be exposed to the soil, the bacteria, the worms, everything under the ground, and they could break down and not store as well. So for this reason, you want to make sure that you don't have too many brown leaves on your garlic. Like if all the leaves on your garlic are brown, that means that underneath the ground, all that paper covering is gone, which is definitely not a good thing. So depending on who you ask, you may want to have 3 or 4 leaves on the bottom, brown, but it's basically a percentage of how many leaves you have total. So for example, on this plant right here, I got, 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves have already turned brown, and then I have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, maybe 12. So I have 12 leaves total, 5 of which have turned brown. So that's not quite a half. So if you have half of the leaves already turned brown, it's definitely time to harvest. But generally what you want to do is when about 1/3 of the leaves have turned brown, that's a fairly good indicator that it is time to harvest. In general, also you want to check with at what time in your area do people generally harvest their garlic. This may have to be offset depending if you planted your garlic on time or a little bit late. I usually tend to run a little bit late in planting things because I'm just usually so busy. So a lot of the garlic in the area has already been harvested, and even as early as late April or May, and here I am in June just about harvesting mine. I always want to leave my garlic kind of like in as long as possible so that they could bulb up and those cloves could get nice and big. The other thing is I grew hardneck garlic, as I mentioned, and the hardneck, if you guys see, have these garlic scapes. They kind of look like little birds, on the top. And the soft neck, which I have in another raised bed, is not actually ready to be harvested yet. This hardneck is. But these scapes, once it starts to form the scapes, a lot of the energy that goes to produce the bulb is probably going to be going up into the scapes. So I like to harvest my garlic before the scapes are fully mature and start getting big. Another thing I'll do, like in this case, I just basically cut off the flowering scape, and actually I ate it for dinner a couple nights ago. So I guess with that, let's go ahead and pull up one of these guys. Number one rule when harvesting garlic, don't just take the garlic, okay John, I'm super strong, I'm gonna pull it up. If you just try to pull it up straight up, right, you're probably gonna damage your garlic, right? The stem is gonna break before the garlic is unearthed. So for that reason, people recommend using a fork and all this kind of stuff. You know, I'm just growing garlic in this 4-foot circular bed. This 4-foot circular bed has about 3 dozen garlic plants in there. It had a lot of spinach in there before, but I'm just gonna go ahead and dig it up with my hands. That's the best way. I wanna try to minimally disturb the soil. So what I do is I take my finger and shove it right down near the stem, and I basically just peel the soil back just a little bit to expose it from the top. And just run a finger around it, right? And then I just basically carefully, wow, these roots are stuck in there pretty good. Get my finger around it, try to get it underneath, and rip it up a little bit. All right, so there we go. There's my first harvested garlic. So to me, you guys can see here's like one leaf that's been already turned brown, 2 leaves, maybe 2 and 3 leaves. This guy still looks a little bit young. I think I'm gonna go ahead and leave the rest of this bed in for a little bit longer for these guys to develop a little bit larger. So yeah, we're gonna come back at you maybe in a couple more weeks after these guys grow a bit more. And that's how it goes sometimes, you know, when you're gonna harvest. You could like decide to, okay, I'm gonna harvest all these now even though they're a little bit small, and you could surely do that. But you know, in this case, we're gonna maybe wait a little bit longer on some of these other guys, and maybe I'll be having some garlic fettuccine for dinner. All right, so I want to give you guys an update on the garlic harvest. It's been probably about another 1.5 weeks since I made the original part of this video. And as you guys can see, my garlic is still growing. These flowering tops are now opening. You know, what I like to do is actually just to chop off all these flowers and just eat them, because actually they're quite tasty. They have a nice garlic, you know, essence, plus some of the nutrients from the garlic. But now's the day I'm really gonna harvest them, because literally half of the leaves have turned brown. Another tip I want to give you guys, it's best to harvest when the soil is dry like it is right now. And you know, some people like to put in a shovel and dig up garlic. I don't like to damage any garlic with any kind of implements or tools. I just like to use my hands. I mean, our hands are meant for digging. Maybe not as good as a dog, but I like to use my hands also. This way I minimally disturb the soil. So what I carefully do is I go around with my finger and I just kind of remove the dirt that's right around the stalk coming out of the ground, and I could reveal the little garlic bulb here inside. And then I keep scooping the soil away with my finger all the way around until I get underneath it, and try to loosen up some of the roots. It's gonna take a little bit of time to do this, and one of the things you don't want to do when harvesting garlic is just pull up by the stem and yank it, because if you do that, you're probably gonna break the stem, which is definitely not a good thing. So once I got it kind of up, you know, I get my kind of fingers, 2 fingers underneath there, wiggle it up, and as you guys can see, harvested some garlic. So what I want to do next for you guys is actually go ahead and harvest all this garlic, and then I'm going to show you guys how to actually cure your garlic harvest. This is a very important step to ensure your garlic's going to last for literally 6 months to a year. So now I just got done harvesting 36 heads of garlic from my 4-foot round raised bed. And aside from knowing actually when to harvest your garlic, probably one of the most important steps is to cure your garlic properly. So what we're gonna do next for you guys is actually show you guys how I'm gonna cure this stuff. And basically we're gonna go into my greenhouse that actually has kind of a roof over it. So it's not direct sun, it's kind of like a more shaded location to get some indirect sunlight. Whether you have a greenhouse that's not in full direct sunlight, or even something like your garage, that would be an excellent place to cure your garlic. So let's head inside and show you guys how easy it is. So now I'm in one of my greenhouses, and what I've done is basically by the rafters, or what holds up the whole greenhouse along the top, I basically tied up these strings so they're just kind of hanging down. I got like 4 of them. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take maybe like 10 heads, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm just basically gonna tie these on up. Now, the other thing I wanna let you guys know is that I'm not washing these cloves, right? I don't wanna introduce any excess moisture than I need to into these cloves before drying. The other thing is, you know, I harvested this on a dry day before my watering system turned on, so they're actually already pretty dry. So now I'm going to show you guys actually how to hang up the garlic. Super simple, super easy, doesn't take rocket science. Now, the first thing I want to mention to you guys though is I've cut off all the scapes. I am growing a hardneck. I cut off all the scapes. I put them in some water inside the kitchen. I'm just basically going to cut off and eat all the flowers inside salads or soups. They're quite delicious. The other thing I want to let you guys know is, you know, most people grow garlic just for the cloves and the bulbs, right? There's more to the garlic plant than just the cloves or bulbs, and I think it's quite sad that people are fixated on the garlic cloves, right? You could actually eat the whole plant. So, you know, before you guys dry these, you know, pick off some of these nice leaves right here, right? You could just chop these up finely, add them to salads, add them to soups, add them to your different recipes, use them just like you would chives. Now, understand this, right? These guys are a little bit strong. The garlic greens can be a little bit strong, but if you like garlic, you're Italian, more power to you, all right? The other thing, and you could eat these leaves the whole season. Now, I wouldn't go around and harvest a ton of the leaves off the garlic during the season. I would go maybe around to each plant and harvest like 1 leaf off each plant. One leaf, the plant's not gonna miss. But if you over harvest the leaves, of course, your bulbs are not gonna form as big. The thing I want to let you guys know about is like these stalks here, you know, that are pretty thick. Even though these are thick and fibrous, right, they're still edible. You could still use them and eat them, and actually, they have a lot of juice in there. If I just take this in my mouth and chew, all right, I definitely got some garlic breath, and that's going to ward off the vampires. So yeah, you could juice these stalks. You could also cut them up. I would dice them into small pieces, add them to soups or things for flavoring. They are a little bit fibrous, so you'd want them to break down if you are going to eat them. But they have a lots of good flavor in there, so don't forget about them. And you could actually cut some of these guys off before drying them, and actually have them for your benefit and use them. I'll probably cut off a few of these and actually, you know, run it through my juicer and get kind of a nice garlic flavor in some of my juices. So yeah, be aware of that, because not many people teach you about that part of this. So anyways, let's go ahead and hang up this garlic. Not super rocket science. We're just going to go ahead and take it and you know, turn this around up here. Make sure you keep tension on your rope. Super critical, super important. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it in here and put in a fancy slip knot that I never learned about because I wasn't ever in the Boy Scouts or nothing like that. But let's see if a Boy Scout guy that wasn't in the Boy Scouts could tie a knot that's going to hold my garlic up. All right, and I wouldn't do this if I was like rock climbing, but I think to hold some garlic up, I think I'll be fine. All right, so we got that garlic tied off there. Now I just got to do a bunch more bunches and get them all hung, and then we'll be back at you with my final thoughts and comments about harvesting, using, and eating the garlic. All right, so as you guys can see, I got all my garlic hanging here in my nice shaded greenhouse. And the thing is, how long do you let your garlic hang for? That's a good question. Depends on where you live. I mean, here, probably a week and a half in the 80 plus to 100 degree weather. You know, this stuff's gonna be dry, and I live in an arid climate. If you live in Vermont or something, it might take 3 weeks. You know, it also depends on how much air circulation and the humidity level in the air. But basically, you just want to check for to make sure that all the roots are all fully dried out. They're looking pretty good. And then at that point, you could take them all out, and, you know, cut off some of the greenery on the top, compost that, and then you could store your garlic inside. And, you know, I have my garlic stored probably about 6 to 9 months, depending on the variety. So, you know, just by growing enough garlic in 1 or 2 raised beds, I have enough garlic to meet my dietary requirements for the entire year, and so that I don't have to buy any garlic. And, you know, life is not an all or nothing game. I want to encourage you guys to grow as much food as you possibly can and to displace certain items. You know, garlic is something really easy to grow, and as I mentioned before, you know, my intention with the raised bed that I grew in wasn't to grow garlic. My intention was to grow spinach, but I put in garlic in between the spinach plants to get, you know, a secondary crop. Also because the garlic helps repel some of the pests that might normally go on the spinach due to the, you know, the high garlic smells and the essential oils in there. And so I always want to encourage you guys to do good, better, best, right? Grow some garlic. You could even grow garlic inside a container. Now, it might not ever make nice bulbs, but hey, you'll always have the greens to eat, so you could get that garlic flavor into you. Now, the last thing I want to say is I do not recommend or encourage you guys purchasing conventional garlic to grow your garlic from in your garden. And the reason is why. Most of the garlic that's sold in the store that's conventional, that's not organic, is imported from China. That's probably the majority of it these days, unless you're lucky enough to live in California. Then you might get California garlic, but even in California, I've seen lots of places sell the cheap, low-quality Chinese garlic. We don't know if that's irradiated. We don't know what kind of treatments, chemicals they're doing to it. So I'd encourage you guys to start off with some cloves from a good local source. You know, visit your local farmer's market and buy some garlic from a good local farmer. Also, when you do that, you're gonna have some varieties that perform well in your specific climate zone. I know the red Enchilium garlic is a variety that does really good here in the climate zone that I'm at. And then if you don't have a farmer's market to go to, hey, buy some organic garlic. You know, by law, that stuff's not supposed to be irradiated, and it's probably gonna be pretty good stuff, although sometimes it's from California, sometimes it can be imported, but I haven't seen imported organic Chinese garlic. I've seen it maybe from like Peru and some other places in South America. So yeah, garlic is a fun and rewarding crop. Also, the health benefits of garlic are out of this world. They contain the alliinase, that's you know, anti-cancer, gonna help you fight disease, and the only thing it's gonna do is might prevent your lovers from wanting to kiss you, unless they're Italian too. All right, so if you guys enjoyed this episode learning how to harvest garlic, how to cure your garlic, all that stuff, hey, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. Let me know. That'll encourage me to make more videos on when I harvest all the different foods that I'm growing here in my garden. Also, be sure to share this video with somebody else that's looking into learning how to harvest the garlic and cure the garlic. And also be sure to click that subscribe button right down below this video so you don't miss out on any of my new and upcoming episodes I've coming out about every 3 to 4 days. You never know where I'll show up or what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. Finally, be sure to check my past episodes. Don't miss out. Over 1,250 videos now teach you guys all aspects on how you guys can be growing your own food at home, become more independent of the man, and have higher quality food and have a higher level of health. So with that, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time. And until then, remember, keep on growing.